Post-match chat with chaps for that Millwall podcast where it finished at Carrow Road. Norwich City 3, Millwall 1. Usually, I have the benefit of sleeping on it and recording these 24 hours after the result and performance, and I can sort of calm down and get rid of the emotions. But today, with it being a Sunday kickoff, I'm literally recording this 2 hours after the match finished, so it might be a little bit more raw this time. But I'll do my best as always. Before we get into it, just to say that, as always, this show is proud to be sponsored by Arco Recruitment. Okay, today was not good enough. It was one of the worst performances I've seen in a long time. I think, in my opinion, I'll come on to it throughout the course of this video, but in my opinion, Rowett's got 2 games to save his Millwall career, if he even wants to save it, which at times I don't know if he even does anymore. I've been very much a Rowett in person, but I think even I'm starting to think it might be time given today, because today was just not on. The players didn't seem to care. It's a very weird feeling at the club at the moment. I know we lost JB in the summer, God rest his soul, and you don't know how that affects everyone at the club. But at the moment, it just feels like no one cares from all angles, and it's really bizarre because the club have gone out and spent 5 million, but it still feels like no one really cares. There seems to be no plan at the moment. It's a very odd state of affairs, and we'll get into it with all sorts of things today. So let's start off with the team that he picked to start the game. So Casper Denor and Joe Bryan had knocks. There was doubts as to whether Romain Esse would be available for today, but he was. He started. He made his first start for us today. And actually, if I'm honest, when I saw that, I actually thought it was the wrong game for him to start. And I think we'll come on to it in terms of his specific performance, but I think that is exactly what played out. I don't think Romain Esse had a very good game at all, and I'm not singling him out. I'm just referring to I'm obviously talking about him and it being his first start. But the bottom line is, when you've got a player like Romain Esse, his strength is in going that way, taking on players going forward. If you start him in a game where he's going to spend 70% of the time out of possession, it's kind of pointless him having him on the pitch. You might as well have Vogelsammer on there. And that's the truth. That is the truth. And he was probably at fault for the first goal. But we'll come on to that in a moment. So the team that started was a back 4. So, Sarkic in goal, Murray Wallace left back, Danny Mack right back, Cooper and Hutch in the middle. 2 in front of them was Billy Mitchell and the returning George Saville for Casper Denor. And then Watmore, Fleming and Esse in the 3 behind the lone striker, Kevin Nisbet. For Norwich, noticeable players that we'll talk about: Jonathan Rowe, Josh Sargent, Ashley Barnes, Gabriel Sara, Ben Gibson. Yeah, they've got a lot of quality in their team, and they were far superior to us. Let's be honest. And I think today could have quite easily, believe me, have been 5 or 6-0. Norwich basically declared at 3-0. That's the way I would describe it. They could have scored more if they really wanted to. And as much as I'm really pleased for Imaku, and he's exempt from any criticism that I'm going to give out today, that goal does not get scored if we're not 3-0 down. It doesn't. Because it's no coincidence that we had our best spell when it was 3-0, because they've basically given up. And they still could have scored more, but that says it all. So anyway, that was the team that started. And I think the first couple of minutes was quite frantic, actually. We didn't have a chance, but we had sort of possession, which is a rarity in their half, and sort of was it was quite a nice sort of start. I felt we started okay, and then they did. They forced an early corner, and then they go very close with a shot from Josh Sargent from range on 6 minutes that literally was a whisker away. I'm not sure Sarkic would have got there. And I think that kind of set the tone. For the next sort of 15 minutes or so, it was quite sloppy from both sides in terms of just some of the general play. No one could really string passes together. But as soon as Gabriel Sara started getting on the ball, that was it. He was massively the difference maker today. They had some fantastic players, but he is quality. He showed his quality against us last season, and he was outstanding today. I think he's probably in the best three players in the Championship, in my opinion. And by the end of the window, with the likes of Dewsbury Hall, etc., going, possibly, I think he could end up being the best player in the league. He really is that good. If we think Fleming's worth 10, 12 million, then this bloke's worth a lot more than that. But as the game started to get into sort of 15, 20-minute mark, it was just, again, completely apparent that they were quicker than us. They were fitter. They were first to every second ball. They were sharper. They were just half a second ahead. And the thing is, Millwall's team is built on solidarity and a heart and an effort level, because there are players, and I've said this before, that are not up to top-end Championship standard. Murray Wallace being one example. But we've been successful with this group because of the effort, heart, desire, commitment, whatever you want to call it. If that goes out the window and the other team have more of that, we're never going to win games. And today was just evident. I don't know what it is. I'll be honest, that's more my concern, that they just look fitter than us. That's the second game running where we've got just outrun the athleticism. I'm jumping ahead here, but it was a moment in the first half. This was when they were 1-0 up. I'll come back to their goal in a second, where we had an opportunity. I think it was our only opportunity in the first half, where Nisbet, balls come in. Nisbet had like a sort of a bit of a toe poke towards goal, but it's blocked. And then they break, and Sargent carries the ball 30 yards and outpaces two of our players like that. And he's not particularly quick either. And it was just such a stark contrast for us. We concede possession too quickly and too easily, and the turnover of play is just, there's so much to moan about today. But they take the lead, and it comes out of nothing, really, to be honest. I'm not saying they didn't deserve to take the lead. They absolutely did. But, and again, I'm not singling SA out, because I know a lot of you guys that listen to this are massive SA fans, as am I. But this was not the right game for him to start. And this was evident. Rowe picks the ball up. SA's way too casual with sort of, in terms of closing him down. He plays a 1-2 with Ashley Barnes. Superb play from Ashley Barnes, holding up against Hutch. Dinks it around the corner. SA doesn't track his man, and it's a superb finish from Rowe. And Rowe is essentially what SA can and will be. So Rowe's 20, so he's a couple of years on SA. He had last season out injured, but Norwich fans are very excited by him, and I can see it. He's a bit bulkier than SA, and his off the ball work is better. But then it also helps that he's going that way 70% of the time instead of going that way, and that's not SA's game. That's why I said I don't think it's the right game for him to start. The right game for him to start would be at home to Stoke next week, which I'm sure he will end up playing, and he'll do better, because hopefully we'll be going more the other way. But I wouldn't hold my breath. So they go 1-0 up. And I think, to be honest with you, they were getting a lot of joy down the flank. Both flanks, to be fair. In the first half, they had 12 crosses alone. We had 0. And we go in 1-0 down, and it could have been more. 2-0 wouldn't have flattered them. And then the second half, we come out, no changes again. And you think, right, we've got to be better than we were in the first half. 3 minutes in, we can see the free kick. And then from the goalkeeper to the defending is just shambolic. It was absolutely awful. I don't know what Sarkic is doing. He comes out. He's not getting anywhere near it. If he stands on, I know it's easy to say, but if he stays on the line, he probably catches it. He doesn't. He comes out, gets nowhere near it. Sargent beats his man. So the thing is, I think Sargent, I was trying to watch it back from different angles. I don't know who was picking him up. I think that was Billy Mitchell, which it's a bit of a mismatch, really. But all Sargent does is just run along the line, get in nearer the near post, and wins the header. I mean, it's so poor from our perspective defensively. We used to pride ourselves on being good at set plays. When's the last time we scored from a set play? It was just terrible. And then that they have multiple chances, but we then have our best chance of the game, which actually doesn't even turn into a chance because Fleming wastes it. But we could somehow get to 2-1, somehow, where it's all through them cocking up. And the only time we actually got the press right, I think the ball, I can't remember exactly. As I say, this is quite raw. So I think it's SA has the ball. He slips in Fleming. Fleming tries to have a shot, whereas if he just sort of squared it, I think Nisbet's probably got a bit of a tap in's probably a stretch, but he doesn't. He shoots, it gets blocked. They then break. I don't think they score from the break, but a couple of minutes later, and they make it 3-1. And the defensive play from Wallace allowing the cross in, and then Hutch and Cooper can't deal with Barnes at all. The pair of them, it's just shambolic. It was so bad, and let's just say they could have easily have scored more goals if they wanted to. Amaku pulls one back. I feel for him, to be honest, because obviously he's the shining light at the moment. He scores his first professional goal, and there was no real celebrations from the fans or the players. I felt for the kid because he's been outstanding, and the likes of him and Nisbet, Denor are probably thinking, "What am I doing here? Why am I here?" Yeah, it was just. There's just something not right. There's something not right, and you can tell because of the players don't look fit. There seems to be a lack of organisation and communication. I don't get the sense that anyone cares that we're not performing either. And I don't know if that's just me and my observations, but I just don't really. I haven't listened to Rowett's post match, so I'll come on to the chanting and stuff in a minute. But I haven't heard that, so I don't know what he said. I just get the vibe no one really cares, and it's really weird. Yeah, I can't put my finger on it. It's just I feel like something's going sour, and we've we've been here before in terms of the chance with Rowett. We've definitely been here before, but I feel like this time it's different. I think it's a larger group doing it. Obviously, his reaction was just stupid. I don't know what he's hoping to achieve from that. You know, he talks all the time about being calm, and he's quite an intelligent chap, whatever you think of him. And then to react like he did, I think is just stupid and pathetic. So I wonder what he summarises it after the game as. But I think the thing with Rowett and his style of play is Rowett is a ticking time bomb. The fans are always waiting to get on his back because the football is so bad. But in a results-based business, you can't argue that over the last 3 or 4 seasons, we've done well from a results perspective. No one can argue with that. And this is the problem. He is literally a ticking time bomb because the moment the same style does not yield results, the fans will turn. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now because the football's never been good. And he must know that as well, by the way. Gary Rowett's football is shit. Regardless of whether you're a Rowett fan or not, it's boring, it's pragmatic, it's crap. But it has been effective. It's not at the moment. And I don't know whether that is just we're going for a bad bit of form and we'll turn it around, or whether the players are not playing for him anymore, or there's something deeper. I don't know. But it all just seems a bit weird at the moment and it's turning very, very sour. And I think he's got 2 games, in my opinion, to sort of save his Millwall career. And the reason I say that is because he's playing his 2 former clubs. He's playing Stoke and he's playing Birmingham. Now, Gary Rowett and Millwall always lose to Norwich, but Gary Rowett always beats Stoke. We beat them both times last season. So I think the performance against Stoke will be telling, and that will show us whether these players are trying to play for him and get him through this rut or get him out of this situation, or whether they're like, actually, sod him, I don't really want to be here. And it's really difficult to tell. And there's all these sorts of things like Cooper's contract. That's another thing that's just weird to me. Is he waiting to see if Rowett's not going to be here? That wouldn't surprise me. You know, there's lots of rumours that Jed and Rowett didn't get on, and maybe that was part of the reason Jed didn't stay. Could that be the same with Cooper? Who knows? You know, there's rumours that him and Saville don't get on, and him and Danny Mack. So I'm not turning on a dime and I'm Rowett out. I'm not. I think he's got enough credit in the bank for the next 2 games. But if the performance is as bad as it was today in the next 2 games, I can't see how it can continue. Because if you allow it to continue, I promise you, we'll be in a relegation battle if we play like we did today. It was toothless, it was gutless, and Rowett deserves a lot of stick for that. But so do the players. Where's all this? Oh, we're playing for JB. Terrible. The effort levels. If you're a professional footballer, you get yourself fit, and we just didn't seem fit today. It was just. It's weird. There is something that's not quite right. I mean, this team is not usually a team that loses 2 on the bounce, and we've now lost 3. In our last 3 games, we've scored 1 goal and conceded 8. We've lost 5 of the last 7 league games. And if you extrapolate our current form over 7 games over a full season, it is relegation form. That's a fact. We get, I think it's 40-something points. We've taken 6 points from 21. You extrapolate that over a season, that is relegation form. So it needs addressing, and it needs addressing quick. In fairness to Rowett, the squad's paper thin. I think, again, where does that fault lie? Again, this goes back. There just seems to be a lack of plan. There seems to be a lack of plan on the pitch. And from a recruitment perspective, I don't know if I understand it, because we've gone out and we spent, I don't know what we spent on Denor, 1-2 million, don't know, right? We've gone out and spent that money on Denor when, to me, our central midfield was not the weakest link. I'm not saying Denor's not an upgrade on Saville, because from what I've seen, I think he is, and I love Saville. But would we not have been better spending that 2 million on a centre half? It just seems weird. And we've left ourselves. Have we spent too much money on a fewer amount of players when we needed more? Should we have taken the 10 million on Fleming so that we could sign these 3-4 players that we clearly need? I mean, I would do it now, but I was going to come and buy Fleming on his current form. He's been abysmal. It's just, there's something not right at the moment. There really isn't. And as I say, I think we will find out what is going on and whether it's a player revolt or something in the next 2 games, because it's poor. I know notoriously we're not good starters. I think we normally. I saw someone put a stat up on Twitter earlier. I think it was JP Millwall put a stat up saying that on average we win 3 out of our first 10 games. So we're not usually a strong starter. And actually, I'm jumping around all over the place here. Probably too much emotion at the moment. But today's performance reminded me a bit of away at Swansea last season, where they went 2-0 up quite quickly and we ended up drawing 2-2. But the actual performance was really bad. But you kind of got overshadowed because we somehow brought it back and scored 2 last-minute goals, which, when we were 2-0 down today, Fleming had taken that chance, who knows to say that couldn't have happened, because I think Norwich were easy to get at from a... And if we attacked them, I think we could have scored goals today. That easily could have been 2-2 or 6-0 today. But it went the way it did. It's just very odd. It really is. I think it's hard to put your finger on it, but there is definitely something that's just not quite there at the moment. And as I say, I think the next couple of games we'll see what is actually going on, because of a lot more performances like this and we will be in the relegation zone. We desperately need to sign players. Absolutely, I don't disagree. But the team that started today, other than SA, I think, and the keeper, is basically the team the group of players that got us to where it did last season, which makes it even more odd. And then what's even more odd than that is that our top goal scorer from last season can't even get on the pitch. I mean, all right, he did for like 5 minutes, but this is what I'm saying. There's just a lot of weirdness going on at the club at the minute. You got that. You got Cooper not signing a contract. You've got the most underwhelming kit release I've ever seen ever. Like, there's just lots of things going on at the minute. It just makes me think that there's something more underlying going on. And again, we've lost our chairman, and maybe we're underestimating the impact that has. I don't know. Anyway, player ratings. So Sarkic, I'm starting to get a little bit nervy. I think there was twice today where he got absolutely nowhere near. No, he got nowhere near their goal, and he was at fault for that, in my opinion. And then there was a moment in the first half where he sort of come out. I don't know if he was trying to punch it or catch it, but he sort of did neither. And luckily, it came to nothing. But it must be difficult coming into a side that's playing terrible, under pressure, and the defence are poor. So I'm not going to make a decision on him now. I think you'd be really stupid to, but I've got a few sort of concerns in the back of my mind. And George Long probably was cracking up to himself today. He's moved to Norwich, probably getting paid 1.5 times what he was being paid at Millwall, and they just battered us. So he's probably sitting there having the last laugh. The defence. The defence. If we want to be a top half team in the Championship, Murray Wallace can no longer be a regular starter for us. He can't. I love him. He's been a great servant for us. He epitomises what Millwall are about: hard work, heart, passion, commitment. But he's not up to it anymore. And in my opinion, we really do need to sign. Obviously, we've got Joe Bryan, but Murray Wallace has started every game this season, and I think you're only as weak as your weakest link. And I think our weakest links are all in the defence. And at the moment, I would argue it's between Murray Wallace and Danny Mack. I think Danny Mack has been really poor this season. I don't know if it's a confidence thing. Maybe he needs to be dropped. Can Wes Harding be that bad? Why did we sign him if we're not going to play him? Clearly, there's something up with Danny in terms of confidence or whatever. I don't know what it is, but another really poor game from Danny. Hutch and Cooper, as good as I thought Hutch was against Bristol, and I sort of said he didn't deserve any criticism. I thought he was terrible today. Again, like not being able to deal with Barnes. Barnes had both of them in the pockets. Both Hutch and Cooper are terrible. I don't know if Cooper is. I don't know what's going on with him and his contract. I think we need to get that sorted out. And if he's not going to be, we need to sell him. But as a collective, that back four has been our defence now for some time, and I think that there might be a bit too much nostalgia there because I think we need to. That's where we need to start addressing it, and urgently, because it's just not good enough anymore. From a defensive point of view and from an attacking perspective, the defence urgently needs to be addressed. Then Billy Mitchell, George Saville. So I thought George Saville's the only person that started the game, I think, that gets any credit at all. I don't think he played well, but he's, to me, the only one that actually looked like he was not trying, but had that kind of heart and desire. I like flying into tackles and stuff like that. I thought Sav was okay, considering it was his first game back as well in terms of starting. I feel a bit for Sav because I thought he was my player of the season last year, and again has been dropped. So I thought Sav was okay. I thought Billy was quite underwhelming again. I think he lost the midfield battle to Sarah. I don't think he'll play many players better than Sarah. And again, it's difficult, right? I think, everyone knows how much of a Billy Mitchell fan I am. So not digging him out, I think it's very difficult to look good in a side that's playing as poorly as we are. I thought Watmore was poor. Didn't really offer much at all today. Fleming, I mean, I don't know. I'd probably drop him. I would. I really would. I don't. He did nothing again today. He did nothing. The front four, I don't know who was meant to be doing what, but they got the press all wrong, particularly in the first half today. SA, I thought he was really poor. Again, he's a kid. He's learning his trade, but today was not the game to start him. And I stand by that. I'm sorry. If you're going to spend 70% of your time out of possession, today was not the game to start him. And this bit I feel sorry for. We had 7 touches in the opposition box all game, and I think he had 1 of them. I feel sorry for the bloke. I'm telling you now, in a good side, Nisbet would score 20 goals in the Championship. I mark my words, he would. He's a very, very, very good player. But if you don't let him touch the ball in the box, he's not going to score goals. And he looks like he's got the ump, and I don't blame him. And then the subs, I thought they all made an impact, to be honest. Obviously, I've talked about Maku, who's direct. He's got a bit more physicality than SA has, and I think that shows, particularly in the Championship. Scored a really good goal. Is it time for him to start? Don't know. Can he do a lot worse? I actually thought Vogie did all right when he come on. I think that could he do much worse? Like I've not been a Vogie fan, but could he do worse? At least he's going to run around. I thought Evans looked good when he come on. I mean, it's easy to look good when a team is basically declared, right? I think that's a bit of context, but we need to do something different. We need to change something. So, is it starting Evans? Do we go to a back three and put Evans in there and then let him kind of dictate the play and then tell Denor, Mitchell, or Saville, whoever plays in that midfield, to push up a little bit? Do you play three in the midfield? Do you play a 4-3-3 and have Evans in the middle as like a pivot? A bit like what Sarah was doing today, dropping the ball, pinging it around. We know Evans has got a superb pass on him. The thing is with Evans is not a Millwall type player in a sense. He doesn't go round, he's not very physical. He comes across a bit lethargic and a bit of lightweight. But he's got a bit of quality about him on the ball. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Is that the wild card we need to do? We need to play him. I don't know what it is. And then I thought Harding looked okay as well. We need to make a change. And I think whether that is Evans playing the next game, Leonard starting, because I don't know why he's not. He's fit. It's rare that he's fit. Why is he not starting? Could you start Bradshaw and Nisbet? Play two up top. Imagine that. It's just something. We need to get ourselves out of this little rut, because for the last couple of seasons, our success, and if you actually look back, I was thinking about this today. If you actually look back, not last season before, when things weren't going our way in games, it'd be give it to Jed. Give it to Jed. Excuse me. He'll try and make something happen. Last season, either Fleming would dig us out of a hole with something outstanding, or towards the end of the season, it was give it to Burke. And I know people will laugh at this, but it was. Because I remember the game at Hull, that was like, just give it to Burke. There's like, and by the way, I'm not for 1 second suggesting that Ollie Burke is the answer to all of our prayers. The point I'm trying to make is a lot of our kind of play was built on, there was at least a plan, which was whether it was give it to Jed, give it to Burke, Fleming do something, but none of that's happening at the minute. We don't have like a proper outlet. Fleming isn't doing anything, and we can't get Nisbet in the game. There just doesn't seem to be a way of playing today. Norwich have a clear way of playing. They like to get it. They like to get Sarah on the ball, nice and deep, and then create overloads in wide areas and get the balls into the box. And in the likes of Josh Sargent and Ashley Barnes, they've got a really good duo up front. That's a clear identity and a way of playing. I feel like we've had that in the past, and whilst I've not always agreed with it, I just don't see it at the moment. And that's my issue. We desperately need to improve the defence, and we desperately need a bit of pace and a bit of sort of dynamism and athleticism in the upper part of the pitch. There was another stat I read, and I don't know how true this is because I've read conflicting stats, but I think what I would say, it gives you a direction of what I'm trying to say. They had players that completed up to 15 successful dribbles. Now, I don't know what the stats define as a dribble, but they had 15. We had 3 in the whole game. We haven't got players, ball carriers, that can take the ball up the pitch. And that's what I meant about Burke, by the way. Regardless of what you think of him, he was able to get the ball up the pitch. We don't really have that. We don't have anyone that can drive with the ball. SA can, but I personally think he's better from central areas. I don't necessarily think he's a wide player. But yeah, look, I've gone on there. It's probably less structured than normal, probably more ranty than normal and a bit more emotional. As I say, I've not got the benefit of sort of waiting 24 hours and collating my thoughts a little bit. But that's kind of where we are. I think to summarise, what I would say is today was abysmal. I think the players and Rowett all need to take responsibility for it. I think Imaku and Saville to a point are exempt from that. I think Rowett's got 2 games to save his Millwall career. Whether the club will pull trigger after that, I don't know. But I feel like it's a very defining 2 games against his former teams. and something's just not quite right at the minute. It really isn't. We don't look fit. We don't look up for it. We don't look interested. There's just a bit of a weird vibe going on at the moment, and unless things change quickly, and whether that's for a completely different change in terms of personnel and style of play on the pitch, or it's new signings or a manager, I don't know. I think we could be in for a long season, which is really bizarre when you consider we spent 5 million. So that's just adds to the whole weirdness of it. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there, guys. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you've got this far, where are you on the row out scale? Do you think he's got enough credit in the bank, like what I'm saying, to give him another couple more games? Even if you don't, do you actually think he's going to be sacked? We know he's not going to walk, right? So where are you on the row out scale? Do you want him out now? Do you want to give him those 2 games, or do you think that we should let him have a longer period? Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. I do respond to as much of them as I can. I guess I'll see you at, down the den for the Stoke game. Hopefully by then we've made a few signings, because I think an injection of pace and athleticism is needed. Yeah. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your weekend, week, wherever you are, whenever you're listening to this. Thanks again for listening, and try not to let it ruin your weekend. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.